energy that our people are displaying when they come to this march. And we must concretize that energy. We must take it from the mystical, from the mysterious, from the undefined, from the uncertain. We must make it clear that we are not Americans, we are the victims of Americanism. We are the sons and daughters of Queen Mother Moore and of Malcolm X. And we will have our independence. Free the land! Free the land! Free the land! Free the land! Free the land!
All right. Yes, you can put the spotlight on me. There it goes. All right. Mama Sabrine. All right. Free the land, everyone. Black August Resistance. My name is Jomo. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the National Information Coordinator for the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement and a proud member of the DC chapter. And again, want to welcome you all to our opening for Black August 2025. Again, we're excited to see all the different folks who are joining, whether this is your first Black August or you have somehow been connected to all 46. We welcome you to tonight's programming. Again, we want to invite folks to also drop their name, where you're coming from. Black August is so much about building or rebuilding community. And so we want to be in community with one another. So even though we can't see you, maybe we can feel you, knowing where you're coming from and who you are. Maybe we can find each other off Zoom here. So tonight, as we gather, we do this the first day of Black August to launch the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement's a month-long set of activities in commemoration of Black August. Tonight, we are honored to be in conversation with the one and only Mama Ayanna, as well as our beloved co-founding elder of the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, Baba Watani Tyehimba, and our dear comrade and former political prisoner of war and BLL combatant, Baba Jalil Muntaqim. And first, we'll get started with a libation from our ancestors to share a little bit about who we are, and then share a little bit about who we are and why we commemorate the 46 years. And then we'll get after it. So I had a little bit of internet trouble, so I didn't have a chance to grab my water, my plant, but I've seen us do it. So we could just take a moment and just take a breath, right? And then take a pause to really feel ourselves, feel our feet on the ground, this earth that has held us, that continues to hold us. And we practice libation as African people, as a revolutionary people, to mark the time, to give appreciation to the ancestors, to those who are at our backs, and also moving towards that which we're fighting for. And so we want to call some names of some of those who have made this month possible. We want to start with calling the name of George Jackson. You can add an ashe into the chat. So we want to call the name of George Jackson. We want to call the name of Qatari Golden, whose assassination by medical neglect on this very day in 1979 set the stage for Black August. So we want to call Qatari Golden's name Ashe. We want to call W.L. Nolan's name, who's part of one of the three Solidaire brothers, along with Cleveland Settlers. Ashe. We want to call out the name of George Jackson's brother, Jonathan Jackson, who one of the flea days are to commemorate his brave sacrifice to try to break his brother out when there was a plot to kill George Jackson, which ultimately was fulfilled, but he was able to, some say, to be able to stall it off for a year. So we honor the name of Jonathan Jackson and really the spirit of revolutionary Black youth all over the planet. We want to call out one of our co-founders' names, Nahanda Abiodun, who was a political exile for many years in Cuba, along with our auntie Assata, who was part of New York, and always tells the story that it was the masses of the people that allowed her to be able to walk out of her apartment in Brooklyn and to make it into Cuba. So we call Nuhanda Ibiodun. We also want to call the names of some of our more recent deceased or transitioned freedom fighters who have now become ancestors. So we would call the name of Dr. Matulu Shakur. We want to call the name of our grassroots general, Sekou Odinga. And then I want to take a moment to offer an opportunity for you all to offer some names of some resistance and freedom fighters that we want to give an ashe to, and I'll just read them out. Lumumba Shakur, Afeni Shakur, Javad, absolutely. Sophia Bakari, ashe. Kwaze Balagoon, ashe. Watani Cambone, ashe. Georgia Jackson, absolutely, ashe. I believe that's Huey P. Newton, ashe. Marshall Eddie Conway, ashe. Sundiata is still with us, so we're not going to call his name, but we give thanks for his life, absolutely. Saladin Shakur, Fannie Lou Hamer, Marcus Garvey, Rochelle Mugi, absolutely. Yefu King.
Ayamuna McKinney, my sister.
Thank you. Still haven't been able to shake that oppressor's tongue. Absolutely. Omawale El Haj Malik Shabazz, who also ancestor turned 100 this year. We want to say ashe, ashe, ashe to all of those. All right, so and again, we want to continue to welcome the ancestors, welcome ourselves, and to commemorate this month of resistance. And so we want to talk a little bit about what is Black August. Jamil, if you can give me my slides.
Measures the heart.
This is really excited about that chokwe piece you blended in there. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to. I jumped ahead. I'm supposed to actually turn it over to Mama Sabrine to come on and talk about who MXGM is, and then I come back to Black August. Did I mess it up already? Give me some grace. I haven't eaten all day long.
Absolutely.
All right.
Free the land. Free the land, and welcome to everyone who's here. So happy to have you. This is my second Black August, and I'm very happy to be participating. Who is the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement? I think that's my topic. The Malcolm X Grassroots Movement is an organization of Black New Africans whose mission is to defend the human rights of our people and promote self-determination in our communities. We understand that the collective institutions of white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism have been at the root of our people's oppression. We understand that without community control and without the power to determine our own lives, we will continue to fall victim to genocide. Thus, we fight for our power, right to self-determination, and community control. We organize across the country. Okay. The principles of unity. We defend the human rights of all African people. We demand reparations. We promote self-determination. We oppose genocide. We demand the release of all political prisoners, prisoners of war, and political exiles. We struggle to end gender and sexual oppression. And if you want to read further, the other 6 principles are to the right of the slide. We have 8 chapters across the country, Oakland, Chicago, Detroit, Jackson, Mississippi, that is, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York. And we are always on the lookout for Black people who love Black people, who are aligned with our principles of unity and believe in our right to self-determination, land, and independence. Ashe.
Right, if we could give some love in the chat to Mama Sabrine's second Black August. Ashe to that. Ashe to that. Thank you for introducing folks to the organization and our principles.
Sure.
All right. Now we get to talk about what Black August is. I was ready to get after it. I'm always excited to talk about resistance. And though Black August is not a celebration, giving it to my oppressors is a joy. So what is Black August? So Black August is a month-long commemoration, not a celebration. I think that's really important as we've seen it grow in popularity. We've seen a lot of Black August this, a lot of Black August that, and really in honoring the spirit of the fallen freedom fighters of our Black liberation movement, right? We want to always hold the line that it is not a celebration, it's a commemoration, right? And it's also to call for the release of our political prisoners and prisoners of war. And in fact, even now it's been over 50 years since the civil rights or the Black liberation struggle that has marked the so many of our political prisoners. Many of them still remain, or there are still some who remain behind walls, the prison walls, and we must do all that we can. And as we understand in this current political moment, that there are being more and more political prisoners being created by the state's repression, right? And so keeping up this practice is about also helping to keep up the resistance needed to support those who are willing to take courageous stands for what they believe in. It's also to educate our people in the history of continued resistance of Black, New African peoples to oppression, colonization, slavery in the United States and throughout the diaspora. And so I understand that we have some folks joining us all the way from Africa, I believe Algeria. I think I saw it in the chat. So we understand again that our struggle is international and that our fates are linked. So that is a little bit about Black August. You want to go do the next slide there, and then how we practice Black August, right? Black August again was created in a moment to help try to, as George talked about, transform the criminal mentality into a revolutionary mentality, so that when they were able to open the prison doors, they were gonna, as the first part of that Ho Chi Minh quote talks about, being able to build a nation, right, to help free. And so these practices for Black August are important, and part of helping to create that methodology of transforming our mentality to a revolutionary mentality. And you might be thinking that you haven't committed no crimes, you ain't got no record, but we could argue that if we continue to allow this government to practice the genocide that we see happening in Palestine, in Africa, and all over the world, then in fact we are complicit. We are then criminal, have a criminal mentality that needs to be transformed. And so how we do that is that we want to study, that we want to devote time to learn about and from our liberation struggles that can take many forms, from reading to watching films to actually even talking to some of the elders who were part of the struggle and continuing to learn from one another. The second principle is around fasting. And when we do that, we are refraining from drinking or eating from sun up to sundown. Mama Ayanna is going to let us know that maybe that's not a path. We can't do the not drinking, but we can not do the eating. And then in the organization, one of the practices that they do with the young folks is if they can't fast and you can't fast, to ask yourself, what's something that you can sacrifice, right? That might be getting in the way of you becoming the leader that you need to be, that our people need to be. And so being able to do that, or what's that bad habit, that vice that you want to sacrifice for this month. Our third principle is around training. So we want to exercise the body as much as possible and devote time to physical training. We also can understand this also as learning new skills, right? I saw in one of our groups, one of MXG members learning how to swim, right? That is definitely a skill we might need if we believe our assessment around what's coming our way, and they're building alligator Alcatrazes, right? So our ability to swim might be a necessary survival skill. So what are some of those other things that we want to be able to train in? And I like you in the chat to, if you are studying something, you're fasting in a particular way, sacrificing something, training for something, you want to drop that in the chat. That's how we also help build a community, learning from one another, sharpening one another. And then the last one is around fight, that we want to get involved in the fight to free our political prisoners and prisoners of war, and to join an organization fighting for Black liberation. And if it isn't the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, that is the organization for you. We encourage you to find an organization to be in the fight with. And if you can't find one, then start one, right? There's so much room on the front lines for all of us to fight for Black liberation. So absolutely. So again, and I see folks are dropping that. All right. Yes, you can feed someone. Yeah, absolutely. And the fast practice is definitely connected to the relationship that many of the revolutionary prisoners had with the Black Muslims, who were the first kind of original set or early set of pioneer political prisoners. And so I believe if the history was right, the kind of Ramadan and Black August were happening at the same time. So the adaptation of the fast came in commemoration of that. And so you can begin to apply some of those rules. So that is Black August. And I see folks are fasting from corporate media, social media, and all the things. Absolutely. Absolutely. So keep it up in the chat. And I believe that is it. So now we can get after our business, which is to talk about the theme for this opening Black August, which is Repression Breeds Resistance. And we have three exciting panelists who are already chatting it up before we can get even started. We needed almost to record that to get it going. So one, we want to bring up Mama Ayanna, who is considered a co-founder of the Black August Organizing Committee out of Oakland, California, also a member of the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement and its cadre formation. So welcome. Then we want to bring on
Free the land.
Free the Land, Black August Resistance.
Black August Resistance.
Then we want to bring on our Baba, the People's Baba, Baba Watani Tyehimba, who is also a co-founder of the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement and its cadre formation. It's also the out of the Atlanta chapter. Is also does a lot of the community self-defense work in the organization. So we want to welcome him, and also a former political prisoner as well. We can't forget that part. And then last but not least, we'll be joined by former prisoner of war, Black liberation combatant, and now Spirit of Mandela organizer, Jalil Muntaqim. So we can welcome them, if we can give them some love in the chat. Absolutely, to welcome them. And I had sets of questions for folks, so we'll kind of have some specific questions, and then we'll throw some questions out to see our panelists to answer some of those questions, and then we'll turn it to you to ask you to ask some questions to our folks around this theme around repression breeds resistance. And it's a very much timely theme, again, as we understand what we're facing politically. So I guess, Jamil, if you want to bring us all up on this. Oh no, we can keep it right there, because the first question is for Mama Ayanna, who's already on the screen. And so Mama Ayanna, you were one of the co-founders of the Black August Organizing Committee in 1979, as I stated in your opening. Can you take a moment to take us back to the year and the origins of Black August, and to talk to us about the repression and the repressive conditions that led to the creation of Black August?
Wow. I'm honored, and I almost feel like Jalil could do that way better than me. as he was in San Quentin and helped to set the help to educate our community members behind the walls, most of them there, as if you read Sundiata Acoli's History of the Black Prison Movement, then you know that there was a concerted effort to round up and imprison activists from the Black Liberation Movement, the Black Power Movement, Black Panther Party, New African Independence Movement, and those of us who were politically active in our community. And it was the not the height, but the beginning of the height of mass incarceration. And the conditions in the prisons, I was just talking with Fatih Kambon the other day, and he was talking about Tracy in California, the gladiator school. And you have to understand, when they call it the gladiator school, they literally, just like in the movies, pitted people to fight each other, against each other. There was there was no agreement to end hostilities. So the Aryan Brotherhood, Nuestra Familia, Black Guerrilla Family, Black Panther Party members, the Nation of Islam members, were all pitted against each other. And there was conditions of degradation, isolation, behavior modification through torture and mind control tactics. And there, how can I put this? It's unbelievable what our people were going through. And so Katari Galden, one of the key thought architects of Black August, had wanted to create something like, what do you call it? Black September, to bring attention to the conditions of our people within the prison systems and jails, with a specific focus on the Black prison and Black prison movement in California. And he was killed the month they were beginning to initiate. It wasn't officially called Black August then. He was killed August 1st, 1978. And in solidarity, the brothers behind the wall, specifically within San Quentin, wore Black armed bands. Many of them shaved their heads. It was Ramadan, so they fasted from sunrise to sunset and refrained from corporate media, which is a big thing to have access to outside through the media, and shared their commissary and made sure everyone was taken care of and studied. They already had study groups and political education on the yards and in these segregated housing units within the prison system. So that was the beginning. And over the next year, we codified and solidified this concept into an official commemoration and named it. And at that time, we were still keeping it underground. That was 1979. And then 1980, and in 1979, we formed the Black August Organizing Committee behind the walls and on the streets, and created our cadre groups and study groups, began to organize, and then we brought it to the streets in 1980. And joining us in that were other, myself, Baba Shaka, and some of the other brothers and sisters were part of the New African Independence Movement. And we were joined Baba Watani, Baba Ahmed, Baba AK were part of that. We also formed the prison law office and the prison desk at the community law office in San Francisco, and organized our families. We had Black August Gardens. We had support groups. We had our Black August festival at that time where we gave away books and clothes and food and educated community. We did multiple outreach activities. And the tenet, the tradition, the commemoration is centered in the fast, study, train, educate, and educate to liberate. And we fasted together, we studied together, we worked out together, we resisted together. And we were fully in belief that revolution was possible, that armed resistance was a part of how we should organize and resist. And we then created solidarity with other liberation struggles around the world. And that included in Africa, the Congo, Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Azania, Tanzania, Libya, and the list goes on. Our phrase at that time was Africa must be free by 1983, right? And then it was 1993. And we also had solidarity with the Palestinian resistance movement and other movements around the world. I would like to just add that we were specifically focusing on a reentry program where we had community members that visited in prison and started writing people in prison that were getting ready to come to the streets. So that was another part of our work of making sure people had a place to live, a job, and community support to offset the recidivism that often occurs with our people. One of the things we began to observe, they were also now bringing in these youngsters that organized on the street that they called gangs and gang members. And so we also were putting into place education behind the walls to support these young people not to get caught up or stay caught up in the unhealthy, destructive behaviors and habits that occur on the streets and behind the walls. And we made sure we were working very hard to make sure that the wives and families and mothers of our incarcerated families and community members were taken care of. Big job. At that time we had 5 cadre chapters in California, and we began to come under attack after a successful nationwide boycott that started in South Berkeley. And I think it was already in planning. So that day, I believe it was October 10th, when they raided all our homes across our country, stopped Mama Fulani. My house was targeted, our key homes were targeted during that time. So they considered Black August Organizing Committee a part of the national Black liberation movement and Black resistance movement in terms of oppressing us and suppressing us. So by 1985, we went back underground. There was a lot of agency, what I call agency, that was present all around us. And then we worked on a community level to keep the name and practice of Black August alive. I really want to let people know, if you are not dealing with our incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, when you consider your Black August events and educations and all the things people are doing, Black August yoga, Black August camping, whatever people are doing, our prisons prisoners, I should say, our incarcerated family and community members need to be centered in that. And if you are raising money, you need to be looking at that money going to support our prisoners, political prisoners, and incarcerated family members in reentry. I'd also like to add that we consciously chose to support our political prisoners during that time period as well. And because we understood that um, they were our soldiers. And then I do want to say this because folks know this. I'm not in alignment with the UN definition of political prisoners. I believe that there are those of us that go get incarcerated, that some people don't know they're soldiers and on the street or in underground fighting, that there are also those of us that were targeted because our family members were politically active and then became active behind the walls. I think we should truly understand that the fight behind the walls is more intense and raw in so many ways than what we do on these streets. And so when someone aligns themselves with prisons, with politics and political organizations, this puts them at risk, and they are usually fighting for their life on a daily basis. They are soldiers. Their ideals, their values, their goals, their dreams are often intricately connected with our movement, and they should be recognized as political prisoners. I'm complete.
Ashe, 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 always bringing it like like none other. Absolutely. They are soldiers, right? I think that's a really important line that we're holding in the desire. Like it's great that we are grabbing hold to Black August, but we cannot lose the core of it, which is the support of our political prisoners, our soldiers. And absolutely, you're raising some beautiful questions that I know many of us in the DC chapter have been wrestling with as we see like you said, when we talk about fascism already being here, it's already kind of fully here, fully developed in our prisons. And we can see some of the kind of emergent fights that are happening when people are fighting back against repression, and they maybe not attached to a political movement like the Peloton 2, Indiana. In the DC region is the Vaughn 17, right? Folks who kind of stood up to the prison repression and have become politicized as a result of their standing up for, again, kind of basic human rights, right? Or in the case of the penalty to saving someone's life. I'm going to take a cue from you, Mama Ayanna, and actually kind of flip it around. So I'm actually going to go to Jalil second, and then come back to you about Watani, and to kind of help kind of make the connections, right, in as much as we can. We know time is not linear, and so Jalil, as kind of we opened up with the Assata quote about revolutionaries not falling from the sky or from the moon, that was shaped by the conditions, and she writes that quote, brothers and sisters from all walks of life who are tired of suffering passively are part of the BLA, and you were part of the ones who were tired of passively suffering. And as Mama Ayanna has hinted at, also were inside at the time, we're facing the conditions both outside and inside. So if you could, I know you have probably a whole book in you around your whole life, but can you talk to us about kind of the role of repression in your life, particularly your organizing and its role in the creation of the Black Liberation Army, and then walk us into Black August? No small task.
Yeah. First, let me present my greetings. Assalamu alaikum, peace, pause, everybody, Jumbo. Yahrin, Hafadea, Shalom. Whatever your native language is, I wish you peace and solidarity. Thank you for that question, brother. Sister Mama Ayanna made some very good points in regards to the issues of Black August and its origins. I was in Tracy. She mentioned Tracy. I was in Tracy, and indeed it was a gladiator school. as was Soledad, right? That's where I met some of my most honored comrades who are part of the Black Guerrilla family, right? I think it's important to understand the origins of the Black Guerrilla family to have some kind of foundation as to how Black August came into existence. And one thing we have to understand is that many of the Black brothers and sisters inside the institutions, particularly in California, were under attack. It was under threats, right, by Nazi COs and Aryan Brotherhood, and also some races Mexicans, right, who was aligned with the Aryan Brotherhood, all right, because they was running drugs and stuff like that in the prison system. Okay, there's their code and how they operated. And so the brothers had to band together. They had to come together and to defend themselves. When the brothers got murdered in Soledad, right? Jughead and Nolan and brothers got murdered there. And George had to take the defensive action, right? In order to retaliate against that murder, right? Created the foundation for even more resistance for the brothers inside. When I got into San Quentin in 1972, that was a founding development for me, right? Inasmuch as I was recruited into the Black Panther Party at the age 16, and then recruited into the Black Underground, right, by the age of 18, and then captured at 19, and then spent 49 plus years in prison, then get out till I was 68, right? But now the point of this is that although they changed the territory, moved me from one space to another space, the fight continued, right? So I was very glad to go inside the prison system, knowing that I was changing the terrain, but the fight continued. And I had comrades there who was already engaged that I didn't even know that was down there, right? Yes, we got soldiers inside the prison system. There's no doubt about that, right? And we need to fight for their release, okay? And so while I was in prison at San Quentin, I started the first national newspaper called Armed Spirit, right? It was a prisoners' newspaper, right? I started the first petition to the United Nations subject to the existence of political prisoners, right? That led to a campaign to have the international jurists come to the United States, and then they discovered the political prisoners existed. They interviewed different people, right? And then in '98, along with Safia Bukhari and Bala Herman Ferguson, we created the Jericho movement as a national organization in support of our political prisoners and POWs. Right, and then in 2018, I initiated the call to have the international jurors come back, right? And in the course of that development, speaking with my dear brother Jihad Abdul Muhammad, who was then at that time the chairman of the National Jericho Movement, and you see my comrade back here. Let me see get on with the TAM hat on, right? Sekou Dinga, right? He contacted Sekou Dinga and had Sekou. And also my dear brother Matt Myers got together and said, listen, yeah, Jalil, we're going to bring international jurists back, but we're going to establish a tribunal, international tribunal, right, and call for the issues of genocide, right? And that's where we are today, right? And it's important for us to understand that we are, in fact, based upon this new federal government that we have, this fascist government that we have, right, we're under the guns right now, right? And we have to really consider what we need to do moving forward in terms of this struggle. Because these people who now run this government, they're genocidal. They believe in genocide, right? They believe in mass murder, all right? And we got to get ready, for real. I mean, we're doing a lot of talking, a lot of, no, we got to get organized seriously, because these people are not playing any games, right? And so for me, at this point in time, we're doing a couple of things, right? We're honoring Black August. We recognize Black August is how do I say this? A tradition, right? A tradition of resistance, right? And a tradition of resistance is far longer and older than the name Black August. Okay, Black August is just a methodology of resistance, right? A form of resistance, and there are many forms, right? And so for us, taking a breath, right, to reflect for a month, taking a breath to do exercises and fast for a month, right? It's part of the process and part of the revolutionary process, right? Where we began to re-energize ourselves, because all day, every day, we under threat, 24/7, 365, right? 20 years, 30 years ago, they said the black man was a what do you call it? A species, threatened species, or something of that nature. Well, how you say, Watani?
I think they meant endangered.
Endangered species. Right? We're endangered species, right? So they had us on the book, man, to get wiped out for decades now. Ain't gonna happen, right? We know that, right? That ain't gonna happen. That's the imagination. Our imagination is gain lose control of our destiny, right? And self-determination. That's our goal and objective, right? And that's how we believe. And so Black August allows us to get into that mode, into that thinking, right? And remotivate me, inspire us in the course of our struggle, right? So I want to leave that at that point right there, because I can go off for another hour and a half. we don't want to hear Jalil spilling like that. Okay, but this is the goal. This is the objective, right? That we have to free the land. Okay, we have no options in this matter, right? Like I tell people today, the land, the Black Belt South is our traditional homeland, right? How the hell are we gonna have people in a country over 400 years don't have a traditional homeland, right? How's that possible? Okay, and so we have to build, right? And this platform here, right, raising the issues of Black August is important to that rebuilding, all right? And I need that. Assalamu alaikum. I yield.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. Underscoring the repression, the fight behind the walls, right? Let
me just add one more thing. You talk about the Black Liberation Army. Let me just make one point in regards to that. Right, with the advent of the Black Panther Party in 1966, October 1966, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seals had the mindset that at some point in time we have to engage in armed struggle. So rule number 6 of the Black Panther Party was no Black Panther Party can join any other underground organization except for the Black Liberation Army. That's rule number 6. So then when they created the Black Panther Party, they knew at some point in time there had to be the necessity to build a Black underground. Right, and so the idea of the Black Panther Party came along with the idea of the reasons for the Black Underground, which originally then evolved into the Black Liberation Army. Now, you asked my contribution to that. Well, I can't talk about all of it, right, because you get some heavy stuff. But let's say this here: the name Black Liberation Army became public because it had a Black Underground for years. All right, for years, from all across the country, right. But the name Black Liberation Army did not come into existence or come public, right, until May 19th and May 21st, which was the case of Dhoruba bin Wahab, and my case was originally the New York 5 and turned into the New York 3. And that's when a communique was issued when those defensive action was taken, right, and the name Black Liberation Army became public. All right, so that's how the name became public in that regards. But our work in terms of underground have been going on long years behind that. Assata Shakur says the Black Liberation Army came with Amistad, right? We came with Nat Turner. It came with Harriet Tubman. It came with Denmark Vesey. It gave a professor. You see what I'm saying? James Farmer, right? So we've always been a resistance. Always had this foundation of fighting back, right? Of resisting, right? And so all of that is Black Liberation Army, okay? You can change the name, right? But the game is the same, all right? Resistance. And that's what it's about, bro. All right, Assalamu alaikum, peace.
All right, absolutely. Well, she has the quote, like, until I'm paraphrasing, until every new African is free, there always will be a Black Liberation Army, right? Absolutely, the continuity of struggle all the way back to the first one of us that said not today, and chose a different path. Absolutely, and Black August being a part of that tradition of resistance, right? The pause before the wake, the reflection, the practice of Sankofa looking back as we go forward. And we're going to do that. We're going to bring on Baba Watani, and again, kind of stringing it together. You also are a former political prisoner, as kind of Mama Ayanna alluded to in her story around kind of 85, and like the state doesn't stop at those that it already has captured, that it will go after your family, friends, associates, and you were part of the set of folks that the state went after. Again, for your refusal to respond to a grand jury subpoena that led to your incarceration for 18 months, if I remember correctly. And so, if you could talk to us a little bit about your experience as a former political prisoner and the role of political prisoners, prisoners of war, and political exiles, the role that they have played in the creation of the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, and why it's so important for us as the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement to continue to commemorate and practice Black August.
Free the land.
Free the land.
Black August resistance.
Black August resistance.
Black August resistance.
So I don't have to do a lot of work because my sister, Mama Ayanna and Jalil, has already done a lot of stuff. So, but I want to go back to 79. I didn't realize that you had started the Army Spirit, Brother Jalil, because I've met with some of the brothers inside. In fact, in 1979, which I talked about it before, I was a paralegal and legal investigator for Stuart Hanlon and Lou Myers, visiting Geronimo while he was in San Quentin. And so on August 25th, we actually called for a demonstration outside of the prison gates. You might remember that, of 1979. So, and that was when I came in contact with Ayanna, because I was organizing for the National Black Human Rights Coalition and was probably trying to recruit her at that particular time. So anyhow, that's where my origin starts with Black August. And as she talked about, we began to do the practices the following year, 1980. So we've been with this from the beginning. So one of the things while visiting Geronimo in 1978, on behalf of the National Task Force for COINTELPRO Litigation and Research, Geronimo wrote an article. Basically said, it was titled, "The Prison Struggle is but a small part of the overall struggle for liberation." What he was talking about was that at some point we're going to be incarcerated, so, or either those that are incarcerated will join our struggle. So the struggles from the street to the inside, that was what the call for August 25th in 79 was in front of San Quentin. It says, we must free our prisoners inside as well as those outside, the struggle from inside and outside. So they made that connection, bottom line. And so when I was incarcerated, it was a little different. I was prepared. I was incarcerated as a grand jury resistor, as a brother said, on August 21st, 1986. So we were in the middle of Black August commemoration when I received the subpoena from the grand jury. My brother Assata Shakur was arrested in Los Angeles. They wanted to charge me with something, but they couldn't come up with anything that they could actually tie down. And so it's always been part of their toolkit to bring before the grand jury. But we had a position of non-collaboration, so they knew when they brought the subpoena, I wasn't going to talk to them. So I locked up. So my first 45 days was in a SHU. I left straight from the courthouse to the SHU. But prior to going there, there was a demonstration in the courtroom. I'm sorry, I should backtrack a little bit, because we're in the middle of Black August, so you have to understand what people's mindsets are. So when I went before the grand jury and I came back, the judge said basically I wasn't going to cooperate. And then there was uproar in the courtroom, and he asked the marshals to clear the courtroom. Well, their jobs wasn't that easy, because we had been practicing and training, and they was trying to remove some of our martial arts instructors as well as our security personnel. So the marshals got kind of embarrassed. So when they took me out, well-secured van and everything to Terminal Island, they put me in the SHU. So I went straight from the streets to the security housing unit. My first 45 days was there. By the time I hit population, I saw people I hadn't seen in years. Brothers I played baseball with, brothers that was running the streets with. They threw me back in the mix. It backfired on them. And so part of what we learn is that we have to organize no matter where we are. And so I hit the ground doing that. I saw there was an old document from the Black Culture Club workshop. I revitalized that, and we began to bring in, presenters, and we began to organize that at Black August. Many of the brothers inside had never heard about Black August, and so we were able to educate them for that. We, in the federal system, they particularly hadn't heard, but there was some that came from the state prisons that hit the yard, and they began to work together. So we began to organize the young brothers on that particular yard, studying and training and doing all the things we did on the street. I figured if I organized too much, they would kick me out, but that didn't work. But I kept doing it. So I think we have to just be understand that wherever we are, we have a responsibility to organize our people where they are. We begin to organize around basic prison rights, because things that they didn't understand they had a right to as a human being. And so that was very important. I think it was already talked about, there were many soldiers behind those walls. I talked to people from many different formations, so the BLA wouldn't just represent one grouping. In fact, at one point, Geronimo had called it the Afro-American Liberation Army. So Ram had called it the Black Liberation Army. So this concept, we can talk about Moses Dixon, we go all the way back to the beginning, coming here. Those behind the walls must be protected, they must be supported, and we want to free them, we want to see the POWs, and we want a return of our exiles. That became our mission, that became my mission, and I believe that, over a period of time, we begin to organize people. When I left prison, people became more conscious of our movement. In fact, there were some older brothers that was in there, we call them jailhouse lawyers, that had been down since the 50s, and they knew all about us. Jalil, you understand that the old street combatants that had done time, but they became politicized once they're behind the wall. That became a part of my support. But the majority of my support came from the youth. I'm talking about the young brothers that had come inside the prison as criminals. Their mentality began to change once they had an opportunity to sit down and listen to somebody. So I became like their elder, even though I wasn't that much older than them. I became that person because I didn't have that same background as they did. So they would sit down and we would talk to us about history and just basic things. And Jomo, I probably forgot the question you asked me, and I just started rambling. So keep putting me back on track. What am I supposed to talk about?
No, you're right there. And then if you could then talk about the role of yourself and other political prisoners of war in the formation of the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, and why it's so important for us as an organization, and I guess even extended wide into the movement, why we need to continue to commemorate Black August.
Well, many of the young radicals around 1975, Assata Shakur being one of them, myself and others, and some of our people that were underground began to meet and talked about forming an organization that would support our political prisoners of war, to fight for the return of our exiles, and begin to organize our people and build a military capacity, particularly in the national territory. That's why many of us moved to the national territory. And so when we looked at that, we said, okay, this is the type of organization that we need to build. And that was New African People's Organization. We didn't surface until 1984. We started building and working in coalition since at least 1977. And so it was over a period of time, we began to work with each other. From that, the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement comes out in 1994, and that became our mass association. Through the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, we've done things like the Black August hip hop concerts that Lumumba and Dream and Monifa and them did in Cuba that helped to internationalize our struggle around Black August. So all these things are important for working with prisoners behind the wall, but also those who have been returned to the streets. We have to look at some point, somebody that's been incarcerated. I mean, that's just reality. Somebody in your family, somebody that has been on the other side and they come back. We need to embrace them. We need to try to bring them into our movement because they represent us. Those are our soldiers. Many of them have heart, but they don't understand what war they need to be fighting. They don't understand their military orders, but they're soldiers. So yes, that's important to maintain those relationships with those prisoners. But we have to also recognize we have some issues with our prisoners too. There's some people that we have to do some adjustments with their mentality. And so that's just a reality of who we are. But that's our overall struggle for our people. We must begin to organize wherever we are. If we're in the prisons, organize there. And we must have prison chapters and prison correspondents. We get letters all the time asking us, what can they do? Because once again, once you sit down, you get an opportunity now to think. And we just young brother that came home recently. I'm not sure if he's on the call, but we recruited him. He was 12 years old. He did 26 and a half years now. He's back with us, working strong every day. And I won't give his name if he ain't on the call anyway. But I will just say to him, Assalamu alaikum. And that probably gave away everything.
everything. Absolutely. I think it just always feels really important to surface that. I think as I've been learning with the transition of many of our former PPs and elders, how many of them were part of, like, you had a phrase kind of like what'd you say, what'd you call them? They couldn't be known because they were underground at the time, right? It's like
I called them quiet warriors at the time. So a lot of things we published, we didn't talk about all the people that was part of the underground in our documentation. So the names you see in my documentation are those people that we could talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just want to, yeah, it just feels really important just to ground of folks like why MXGM. And it's like it is part of who brought this organization together, part of the organization that even founded the organization, this idea that that we needed to continue to hold the line around our political prisoners. That there's so much even in there around kind of talking about what was happening in 1975 around kind of the backtracking on particular key political positions, self-determination for the black nations, and the freeing of political prisoners, the right to stand up for ourselves and to take up arms, all kind of a retreat that was happening. So MXGM and NAPO have been kind of helping to stand in the gap of that, right? And Black August then has been some of the means that we've continued to do that, and just wanted to ground that for the new folks coming in, for the Mama Sabrines and others who Black August is their first or second one, right? And we continue to grow our movement. All right, so that's
clean it up for me, brother.
I don't know if I was cleaning it up. I might have been mansplaining. But we do got a question here. I'm gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna invite those who are in the audience to ask a question. I think you can use the question and answer function on your Zoom to ask a question, or drop it in the chat if you have a question for any one of our panelists or for all of them. We'll try to take as many questions as we can, and then we'll start to move towards close, because this has been very rich. And so one of the questions I just kind of wanted to throw out to all three of you all, and however y'all want to answer it, is that, again, kind of as we've been learning, Black August in many ways was created in response to repression and fascism happening both inside the prisons, and, as we've heard, also happening outside in the larger society. Many believe that we are on the edge of such another moment of kind of intensified fascism. So will any one of you all kind of talk about and I think we've touched it a little bit, but how will practicing the tenets of fasting, studying, training, and fighting prepare us to meet such a moment?
Well, discipline is key. Oh, go ahead, Watani. I don't mind being talked over or talked with while we're
absolutely.
on
here. Go ahead.
I think that when we come into the movements and movement activities, organizing and advocating and educating, we come from a Western European centered process that, and these days especially, there's this idea that discipline is like a form of punishment, as opposed to a form of learning to live and grow and organize, advocate, and educate together and resist. I think that discipline is a form of resistance. And the more that we practice it, the better we're going to be able to deal with the conditions that are happening around us. Discipline as a group and a group model and a mass education model is going to be key in these times. I look at Black August as an almost we didn't officially look at it as a science, but I began to approach it as a science as soon as I began to practice it, right? What do we create to engage our community? What ideals and values do we promote with it? We did bring in the honoring of the ancestors as a way to make it more appealing to our community, right? And draw in the varied practices, people who practice on different levels in our community. I also think, study, we have to be aware, right? We must be aware. We must have a historical analysis. We must be able to put that historical analysis into practice and bring it into how we plan and approach our daily lives as well as the future, creating the future. The historical analysis gives us the opportunity to create vision together as well. And the training part, as an elder, having to deal with injuries and the results of injuries, that has been a challenge for me, but it doesn't stop me from trying and continuing to find ways to keep myself evolve my physical well-being. There's also the training that we don't talk about, right? Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. That's extremely important, that we know how to defend ourselves in our community, our homes, our communities, our families. I was just watching, this is an aside, but I was watching something yesterday where a truck driver was telling people about how Black truck drivers are disappearing across the nation and what we need to do in response to that. Our elders have taught us that self-defense and being organized around self-defense is extremely important. I also think that as a new African woman with a revolutionary understanding, right? Pan-African, and with an international awareness. We're not in this apart. So Black August was also used to create unity across our political spectrum in what we were considering a revolutionary moment at that time. And that included working with our allies, which has always been a challenge for me, but not impossible, right? We have to build alliances across our cultures. So that's part of it. I would also say behind the walls, that creating that discipline was extremely important as well, with people not engaging in smoking and using drugs and the alcohol, and the mass media created an environment and can create an environment in our homes as well to perpetuate revolutionary understanding and ideology. Uh, um, yeah, most definitely, Jalil. That's probably one of the hardest thing for me. I let others who know how to do that training do that training, and because I worked very hard on my discipline and my patience, but I'm still occasionally get fiery in response to oppression in the forms that it comes in. But I'm well aware we have to know who our enemies are, if who our oppressors are, how to navigate within the spaces. And I think Black August as a commemoration and a practice and a discipline helps put us in that place. I believe I'm here because some of the practices and disciplines that I have practiced over the years, right? While so many of my comrades and my beloved sister comrades and brother comrades are not with us. I believe I would add the discipline of meditation or quiet to this, however we practice it, whether it be, and it doesn't always have to be quiet, chanting, prayer, being still, I think is extremely important process of discipline, because when you quiet your mind, you can really hear the synthesis of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we carry within. And uh, I mean, this is why we have brothers like Jalil and Sekou, who have become imams, right, who have taught these teachings behind the walls and brought them forward to us on the streets. And however, I remember Susan Taylor, one of our beloved community, Black community allies, saying that 15 minutes a day of silence led her through her life. And I say the same thing. You know, I learned it young and strive to practice it and believe that along with hydration are key tenets of revolutionary discipline.
All right, revolutionaries, drink your water. We got about 4 questions there. I don't know if Watani, you're about to jump in. I want to see if any of you wanted to add anything onto it before we maybe get into some of the questions that are being asked.
No, I totally support what you said. The discipline, I believe, is priority. Absolutely. It takes us through everything.
All right, and Jalil is after it in the chat. All right. So they're about now there's 5 questions. They keep coming. All right, I'm gonna kind of move through the questions. The first question is it's not a novice question. There's we're all learners here. There's the one of the first principles is study, and as we always say in the organization, right, never be afraid to ask questions for the sake of clarity. So it is not a novice question, but in Black August there are what they call flea days. Would any of you all like to talk about what the flea days are and what they commemorate?
So flea days were internal for a long time. So I would say this, the flea days are August 1st, August 7th, August 21st, and let's see, August 13th. And they are in honor of key actions of resistance that ended with our soldiers losing their lives. August 1st, of course, was Qatari Galden, and he was, as you said, murdered through medical malpractice. I know this because I did the research on it. I saw what happened to Qatari. This August 7th is the amazing, wonderful act of resistance that Jonathan Jackson did at the Marin County Courthouse. And, you know, he unfortunately was set up for that. But his courage, and we have to understand so many of it, our people in our movement have come in as youth, right? I came in as a youth. Recruited originally by Brother Yusufu, who went on to, even to the day he died recently, was still recruiting and training from our community and with our allies as well. Then August 13th is when we honor W.L. Nolan and the brothers who were killed on January 13th. And then August 21st, we recognize and honor George Jackson. And those days, many people are encouraged to fast from everything 24 hours, right? If you want to really practice your discipline, fast from everything 24 hours. Again, I would encourage you to drink water, but if you are training yourself in high levels of discipline, as I did up until just about 5 years ago, that all-day fasting, that refraining from water, which I stopped doing probably as I became an elder, as I acknowledged my elderhood about 10 years ago, and realized, you know, there are things health-wise that we need to do to support our blood, our internal organs, the health of our cells. If we don't have to go without it, you know, if you are an elder, pregnant, on your cycle, have medications you need to take, I really encourage you to drink water. and find nourishment. One way is to make it like chlorophyll water, but definitely. So those are the flea days. Those are the flea days. Would anyone else like to add to it?
And the specific question that they really wanted to get at was, why are they called flea days?
I'm not, see, you know, sometimes we talk about things, sometimes we don't. I'm not talking about it. Maybe someone else wants to.
Okay.
That's in my training. Just let it go.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right.
That's
So
internal.
it's not connected to the book, The War of the Flea.
In the sense of the acronym, somewhat,
Okay.
you know, because you know, you live to fight another day through your practice and discipline.
All right. We're gonna leave it alone. That is the training. We don't need to know about things we don't need to know about. Absolutely. All right. So one of the questions we'll jump around a little bit. There's a question around uh the role of college students. So it says, for all three amazing panelists, do they see a specific role that college students can, I guess, play in fulfill in supporting the liberation of political prisoners and POWs? So the role of college students.
I would say absolutely. They have a role. Many of us were part of college demonstrations, part of Black student unions on campuses. A lot of our intellectuals come from campuses, and so the difference is that they have to get that information and take it back to the community. So to answer the question, short and simple, absolutely, there's a role.
Absolutely. And if you don't know, we've been doing a summer school for self-determination on our BAM YouTube channel. And if you don't know, Baba Watani invented Black studies according to Baba AK. That's a joke, but Baba Watani is what coming out of that, right? And so there is definitely a role. And if we understand the history of Black studies and college students, absolutely there has been a historic role and a continued contemporary role.
Can I just add
Yep.
a personal experience? I used to be good in math, right? I qualified word, used to be, okay. And I used to have a tutor, right, in math. And I was going to school, high school in San Jose, California, right? I had moved out of San Francisco, moved to San Jose. Going to high school, Orfeld High School, East Side, San Jose. Yeah, anybody know about it? All right. And my math tutor was John Carlos, right? The iconic John Carlos, who had his fist up in 1968. And at the time, he was a college student in San Jose State University. All right. That led me to understand that there's a relationship between our older brothers and our younger brothers and sisters. All right. And so it's imperative that our brothers who have the education, right, who has the training, right, reach back into the younger brothers in the schools, in the high schools, right, and be a mentor. Help train them, bring them up, right? That's how I was brought up, okay? That's one, right? Two is this here, right? In my book, We Are All Liberators, I have a particular chapter, right, for the college students, for students, organizing students, right? It's imperative that those who are trained, who has the education, build a campaign to go back in the community and organize and teach, right? What they're doing to our schools now, right? It is more important today as it ever have been, right? To have Black education, right? New African education, whatever you want to call it, right? Liberatory education, right? Back in our communities. We're going to have to, again, establish liberation schools, right, in our communities. It's important that we do so, right? So our brothers and sisters in the universities and colleges, whatever area that you are disciplining yourself in, bring it back to the community, okay? Bring that education back, right? Bring that training back, okay? Get in where you fit in, okay? Ain't nobody being excluded here, okay? Right. Except for if you're a pig, then that's another story altogether, okay? Right? If you got a colonized mentality, then you got to work on that. That's first thing, right? You got to decolonize your mind, right? And then on the basis of that decolonization, then you can help your people. Okay, right. You can't help us if you're still thinking like the training that you got, right, unfiltered. Okay, so it's important that our college brothers and sisters understand that you have a job to do, right, and particularly those who are involved in those fraternities and sororities, right. Get them, right, because they're bourgeois in their thinking. They've been trained to be Greeks. What? Okay. That's a problem.
Right.
Okay.
I'm down with that.
Right.
I would also say, I just want to add here,
okay. Thank you, sister.
Baba Jalil, interrupting on purpose. Our college students have access to information and resources that we often don't have access to in our community directly. And we have to begin to be really scientific. And a lot of the science and building toward the future come from those that are in these higher education institutions, community colleges, which is where the Black Panther Party started in Oakland. And so the ability to engage with other people of like-mindedness and then look and bring forward how you can create change and resistance in our community is extremely important right now. And creating these networks, right? We need to have underground railroads, whatever we want to call them, right? Highways, pathways, and we also part of decolonization. And I think Jalil writes about it very concretely in the three-phase theory in his book, We Are Our Own Liberators. We have to use our minds to create the future, and we can't stay where we are now. We have to bring this new knowledge, information, understanding forward in scientific ways to aid our resistance and these pathways for freedom that we are consistently creating since we began to resist oppression as ancestors. And decolonization is key to develop in these institutions. And I also think our college students are very close to many of these organizations that work in community and have the opportunity to engage with our youth and bring decolonization science designed to engage our youth and raise them up and bring them up. I would not be who I am if those younger adults were not there with an understanding of what they needed to create for us as young people, and passing on and bringing us into the movement.
I just want to add one thing. In terms of college students, Muhammad Ahmed of Max Stanford at the time started RAM, Revolutionary Action Movement, on a college campus. Most college campuses that were influenced by these organizations. Many of the organizations you know about today often have roots on those campuses. So I think we just have to look back through our history and understand that it's important for us to have thinkers, and those thinkers be able to transfer that information back to our communities.
I would say that RAM is also a part of why I am who I am, because RAM movement youth were coming. I was incarcerated for a year, and they were rounding them up and incarcerating the youth and putting them into youth authority when I was a teenager. And so that was also part of my radicalization. They were teaching us, renaming us, evolving us, and even to step further back to I was engaged and recruited for study groups by college students in the town that I lived in as young as 13, because I was a reader and I was hanging out at the college because I was hungry for knowledge. And they put in place a study group for me and my friends, and brought forward radical literature that we never would have been exposed to, radical ideas that we never would have heard about if it was not for them. These college students can be life-changing and life-saving.
All right. Thank you for that. All right, we are right up on time. There's still some questions and still more coming, and that's really exciting. Because that to me that's always a really good sign of a good conversation, right? Like, oh, we could continue going on for another hour, but we're not going to do that because we're standing in between ourselves and for those of us on the East Coast, some food. But I do want to, a couple ones I think I could knock down real quick. So one, there was a question around kind of reading film resources. If someone on the tech support team can drop the link to the Malcolm X Grassroots Black August handbook that contains sets of readings and resources for folks. And then if you haven't, scroll back through the chat. I think Jalil's been offering all kind of readings and films and things like that for that. And then there's a question around alternative media. I think in a lot of ways, what we're up to is a form of alternative media when we understand the work of Dr. Mutulu Shakur and Afeni Shakur with the national task force COINTEL pro litigation form of alternative media, right? How do we communicate with our people in ways that that is not relying on the state or these corporate actors, the Twitter, the Facebooks, and things like that. And that requires us to be in relationship and networking with one another. The last question I'll throw out for you all to answer is the question around kind of, again, understanding where we are, the theme about repression breeds resistance, as we are in this, again, this moment of heightened awareness around fascism, whether we believe it or we don't believe it. As we close, what should be our focus coming into Black August and then on the other side?
If I may.
Yeah.
All right. I just got a couple of points that I want to raise to the issue that you raised in regards to the question of our students and the question of the state of our minds at this point in time, right? I think it's important for us to really understand that we are traumatized people, right? Across the board, we are traumatized people. We are only people that's been named by our enemy, right? What's a Negro? Where's Negro land, right? They tell us that a Negro is a derivative from the word negra, which is Spanish for black. I'm not Spanish, right? But we accepted that name. We had accepted that name given to us by your enemy. But who do you name? You name your pets. You name your property. They named us, and we accepted the name. That's the degree of trauma that we have experienced for 400 years of being dehumanized, degraded, demeaned, devalued as a people, right? So one of the things we have to do in terms of decolonizing our thinking is we have to re-identify ourselves. Who are we? That's why I identify myself as revolutionary Muslim New African. Okay, that's number one. Now, we got to get clear on that, right? Who are we in terms of our identity, and then the identity and association to the rest of the world? That's important. Okay. Second of all, in terms of our capacity to decolonize our thinking, right? And what Black August has done is discipline, upon that discipline. The next choice is, where are we going? Right? Where are we going? Because if we don't know where we're going, any place can take you there. You see what I'm saying? And so for us, it's important for us to understand that we have a particular goal and objective to achieve, and the process in which we do so, right? So we talk about freeing the land, so how do we do that, right? And one thing we have to do, we have to begin to build some unity amongst the various organizations who identify themselves as New Africans. That's first, right? Those who identify as New Africans, we have to sit down together and strategize, right? Because my problem, my thinking is this here, we got two trends, BLM and New African Independence Movement. And the BLM, as far as I know, has not really established what the ultimate goal is. Okay, a socialist America, what? I don't know. Okay, they ain't stated, so I don't know. Okay, those who identify as BLM. But those who identify themselves as New African Independence Movement, We got to get a serious sit down. Okay, all those who identify themselves as New Africans, right? And we got to make a distinction between us and those who may be compromised and or defected or whatever the case, distracted. Let's put it that way, distracted in some mythical world of this nebulous idea of revolution, right? But for us, we're very clear, right? We're gonna free the land, okay? The area in which the majority of Black people still live today is in the Black Belt South, all right? So that's the national territory. That's our ancestral homeland, right? And we got to go claim it. Okay, so for me, in answering your question, right? That's my answer to that question right there. Where are we going from here? Okay, right? And for us, it is for those who identify as New Africans, we got to have a sit down, a very serious sit down, right? And there are some problems within our family, and we have to resolve those problems, because being divided and being a disarray as this is, it's a weakness. Right? We can't afford it, because those who are opposed to us, right? They're organized. They got the country now. Listen. We have this guy Hespec, who is a white supremacist, who's Secretary of Defense. The Navy, the Army, the Marines, the National Guard, the Coast Guard, they're in control of that. White supremacist. He has another Proud Boy, who's head of the Center for Counterintelligence. You imagine they're teaching their people how to engage in counterintelligence. You imagine they are establishing a hit list. This is serious, right? And we're talking about it. No, we got to get organized. We got to get right. Well, they ain't playing no games. These concentration camps that they're building, after they deport everybody out, you think they're gonna mothball those? Well, you don't think they're gonna turn them to dust? Hell to the no. We gotta get our act right. So that's my answer to that question, bro. Right? And I'm I had to take it there because we're there.
Right. Right? We are.
And we can't be liberal about this here.
Right.
This is life and death.
Right.
All right.
All right.
Yeah,
I would add that
I yield.
What I call the unity you're talking about is strategic unity, Baba Jalil. And we have to start creating it now. We do have some already, but the examples that have been set, this big ugly bill is a prime example of how strategic unity works, right? Everybody puts aside their differences, and it was part of the science of it, right? They're putting everything into one thing. And we agree on this one thing, and some of it's going to be worked out later, right? But if we agree, we can get this done. And that is how we have to work together. We find what we agree on, and sometimes we consolidate these things into something like Black August, right? And then we all agree on Black August, and that's a form of strategic unity. At this point, it has to be so much more intricately and scientifically created. And we need your minds, we need your hearts, we need your spirit into this. And we have to begin to bring as many people as possible into this commitment of strategic unity across differences. Like, Brother George said, put aside your differences, come together and create. This is a time for creation for us, and to bring in from the past those things that we know have worked for us, and take it offline, y'all. Get out of these media spaces where they have total access to us. I'm not saying that anything we do at this point is private, but at least we can create some situations and conversations where we plan and strategize together in ways to ensure our freedom and liberation and resilience. And for some of us, it's going to be survival. I many of us have been seeing this coming, and the level of apathy and that has been created, apathy and pursuit of pleasure. Our minds, our children, our children's children are being captured by those who mean our destruction and our subjugation and continued oppression, right? And so we have to inspire others as well. And that's our daily practice, engaging with one another, getting to know who your neighbors are, engaging them, speaking out, being fearless for those of you who can be, right? That's why many of us elders are speaking out and being fearless, because we know it could be any of our time at any time, but at least if I'm going out, I am going out resisting fully. And that we have to, and love, if I learned anything from the BLA, I learned love in movement and the New African Independence movement. The love that is present in our movement is creates the growth, creates the vision, creates the future. And we have to spread that love into everything around us and all the work we do, all the conversations we have. The courage, the love, the resistance has to be present.
Shane. All right. We're gonna let love have the final word on this conversation. You're absolutely right. From Chokwe Lumumba, whose birthday is tomorrow, who talked about always in the meeting, if you don't love the people, you will eventually betray the people, right? Always that to Dr. Mutulu Shakur reminding us that people struggle for liberation because they love people, right? Love is at the center of it. And if we really understand Black August at its core is the love of the comrades, right? Love of family, love of community, love of struggle, love of freedom and liberation. So want to thank our panelists, give them some love in the chat. And then we want to bring Mama Sabrine back to talk about the principle of fight and the actions we need to take to support our political prisoners.
All power to the people, free the land.
All right, free the land.
Free the land.
Free the land.
Free the land.
Okay, Baba, what you say I'm supposed to do now?
I believe you are on the slides, right? Did I get that right? I've been mixing it up.
I don't know. You might not be mixing. It might be me mixing it up.
All right. I think Jamil's gonna bring a slide back up to talk about. Yes, that's the call. What's the call? Free them all.
What's the call?
Yes.
Free them all. We must fight to free all political prisoners. Baba Kamal, Imam Jamil Amin, Baba Kamal Siddiqui, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Mumia Abu Jamal, Shaka. Say that for me. Assata Shakur.
I think that might be it.
Shaka Assata Shakur.
Absolutely. So again,
what's the call?
Free them all.
So everybody should say, free them all. What's the call?
Free them all.
Free them all.
All right. Absolutely. And then there's you got another slide. Keep going.
Reverend Joy Powell. Okay, Josh Williams. Stop Cop City.
Absolutely.
What's the call?
Free them all.
Free them all.
Free them all.
We must fight to free all political prisoners.
Ashe. And then the comrades are dropping the links in the chat that you can take some steps to support our political prisoners, prisoners of war, politicized prisoners, and political exiles. And we are just getting started with Black August 2025. So we go to the next slide. Next week is Mutulu Shakur Day, August 8th. So we will be commemorating the life and organizing legacy of Dr. Mutulu Shakur. With our next Friday session entitled New African Anti-Fascism, the Political Organizing of Dr. Mutulu Shakur. and we will be honoring our beloved ancestor of the New African Peoples Organization and the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement on what would have been his 75th birthday. And we will reflect on his political organizing, solidarity, and building under state repression and COINTELPRO. So you don't want to miss that. We got Baba AK or Dr. Akinyele Emoja. That's the I don't want to say professional, but that's the name with respect. Also, we'll be joined by Dr. Kwame Calamari also to talk about the legacy. So this is going to be a really exciting one. Again, if we understand, as Robin D.G. Gibbons talks about, premature anti-fascists, that's always been a part of our tradition. Dr. Matulu Shakur and many of the folks in the New African Independence Movement are a part of that. And hopefully through this, we will become mature anti-fascists through our struggle for Black August. So that completes our program, beloveds and beautiful ones. So thank you all for joining us. Yes, there should be a link to join the Malcolm X Grassroots Movement. If you are interested in joining, you should reach out to our national organizer or myself. And hell, how can people, if they want to join MXGM, how can they do that?
Contact your local chapter.
That's one answer. Absolutely.
Go to www.mxgm.org.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to drop my Proton email in there. And if you are interested, if you try to reach out to your local chapter, you can also find us on Instagram, and the chapters are found there. So you should reach out, check the website, and if you need to contact someone, you can reach out to me via email, and I'd love to connect you with the nearest chapter so that we can free the land together. I believe that is it for our program. Again, thank you again to our panelists. Thank you again for all of you all who joined us, as is the greeting for the month, Black August Resistance. Black August Resistance, free the land.